Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? Kalani Sitake and the Cougars hit the road to battle former Mountain West Conference rival Wyoming in Laramie. Your home for the best coverage of Cougar football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It is JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us. I want to remind you, Brett McMurphy is going to join us in just a few moments here from the Action Network. And we'll also remind you that the program that we are hosting is brought to you by the folks at G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. Go check them out. Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, and many other places in the refrigerated section, JJ. So there you go. Let's kick off the program as we always do. Let's jump into the cut right here and get started.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And this portion of the show also brought to you by the folks at Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com. That's Trajan Wealth for all of your local trusted financial fiduciary needs. Hit them up, TrajanWealth.com, spelled TRAJAN Wealth.com. All of the stories, of course, across the day of college football, of the locals, of course, that we've been chatting about. We've been wondering all week about what the possibility of Cam Rising starting against Utah State would look like. We've been going back and forth about whether or not you'd want to see him starting, if you needed to push that. And, of course, the insane news today dropping about the Pac-12 and the additions of some teams. All of that was tweeted out by Brett McMurphy from the Action Network. You can follow him on Twitter and get all of this type of update. And none of it had to do with tetanus, JJ, which I thought was very disappointing.
That's good.
The possibility of yes.
That wasn't Brett reporting.
No.
Of course not.
The different things that could or could not be happening to the health of Cam Rising. Joining us on the program now, he is Brett McMurphy. Thanks for joining us, Brett.
Yeah, Dion passes along his thoughts and prayers, so good to be with you.
I get Dion getting involved. I couldn't tell if he's trolling us too or if he got sucked into it, but
he has no clue.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let's jump in here. Let's start first with the local story. Well, they're both local stories, frankly, here. But let's go with Cam Rising. And we were wondering about what this looks like. And you reported, of course, that he'd be taking a seat for this weekend's game against Utah State. And more of a precautionary side of things as they try to get back into conference play next week against Oklahoma State. Where does his health stand according to what you've heard?
Yeah, look, if this was a playoff game, I don't know if he would play or not. I didn't pursue that information, but I was just told, that basically he would not play. He had some stitches on that hand the finger, and they want to give him the week off. And the expectation is he'll be ready next week for Oklahoma State. So, obviously Utah is a huge favorite in this game, expected to win, but, so was Notre Dame against NIU. But certainly, here's the reality of the new college football playoff. Utah can lose to Utah State and win the Big 12 and still go to the college football playoff. Utah can beat Utah State by 100 and lose to Oklahoma State and not go to the college football playoff.
Right.
So I think it's smart to kind of do this, especially, you guys are well aware of Cam's history. You got a guy playing his seventh year. Why take a risk that you don't need? And if something crazy happens and you lose this game, you win the Big 12, whether you're 0-3 in non-conference play or you're 3-0, you're in the playoff. And so, I think it's a smart decision to let him get healed up, and hopefully he's ready to go next week in Stillwater.
And that game in Stillwater is just going to be massive. A lot of implications in that game. And, you've seen Utah for 2 weeks now. We'll see him again against Utah State, assuming Cam's fine and healthy and ready to go for that Oklahoma State game. Do you still feel like Utah's the team to beat in the Big 12, or have you seen something here in the first couple weeks that has changed your mind?
No, I haven't, and I still think you could list 8 schools, and I'd say, yep, you know what? I agree that team can win it. I still think it's that wide open, and we're not going to know. I think we'll get a little bit of an idea Friday when Arizona plays Kansas State. And again, talking about the implications of the college football playoff. What's weird is the winner of this game, while it will not be a conference game because it's their non-conference schedule. They didn't want to disrupt it with conference realignment. So the winner of this game will not actually have any head-to-head tiebreaker as far as the Big 12 is concerned for who gets into the Big 12 championship game. However, they would have the head-to-head tiebreaker regarding the college football playoff selection committee. So the loser of this game gets to the conference championship game and doesn't win, and they're being compared against the team that either Arizona or Kansas State, whoever won this game. The selection committee is not going to go, well, they made the conference championship game. They'll go, hey, guys, these guys played in September. This is the team that won the head-to-head, and we're going to slot them above the other team. Now, will that get them into the playoff? We'll have to see. But, yeah, there's nothing that I've seen from Utah, Arizona. I know Arizona kind of slept walk last week. Oklahoma State outplayed against Arkansas, probably should have lost that game. UCF, I think, is a dark horse. Iowa State's a dark horse. I believe in them very strongly. They pull one out at Iowa, which they rarely ever win at. Kansas, that's not a bad loss, but you don't expect to lose that game. You're a slight favorite. But again, once you get into conference play, man, it's going to be so crazy, so wild. But nothing has changed, in my opinion, on Utah to win the Big 12. I'm still projecting them that. I still have them as the highest ranked Big 12 team. Certainly, we'll know. This week's not going to tell me anything. Whether they win by 3 points or 100, I don't care. Let's see what happens in Stillwater, and I think we'll get a better read on not only Utah but Oklahoma State that has, played some decent competition to start, but has not looked that good in my opinion.
Brett, obviously the other big news was the Pac-12 and whatever the newest iteration is going to be of that conference. They are trying to stay together as a conference, and today, with the addition of 4 other teams, how long has this thing been in the works, and how did the Pac-2, how did the Pac-12 get this one done, poaching these teams from the Mountain West?
Pretty simple, money, like everything else in conference realignment. They basically went from being a 2-pack to now they're the 6-pack. And they got to add 2 more. They need to get to 8 by 2026 to remain an FBS conference. Everyone wants who's the next 2. Nobody knows. I just talked to Pac-12 Commissioner Teresa Gold, and I asked her. I said, I know you're not going to tell me any teams, but I said this is kind of the way I'm thinking it played out, and I basically said, you guys were in agreement on these 4 schools, but you really couldn't come to a consensus on 2 more schools, so you decided to kind of wait and get all 6 together, and all 6 members now can kind of figure out who are the next 2 to add. And she goes, yeah, that's basically it. We're going to look at everything and see who meets our values and our fit and yada, yada, all that stuff. So it's good for them. It's unfortunate for the Mountain West, but look, you guys have seen it firsthand. College football is a big totem pole, and you're either really high up or you're really low down. And the higher that you're up, you can pick teams or choose from conferences below you. And so that's what the Pac-12 did. The Mountain West, give them credit. They did the scheduling agreement with the Pac-12, and so they're going to rake in a tidy $111 million from the schools exiting and from the Pac-12. So they can sit on their big Scrooge McDuck bag of money, and hopefully they'll have enough teams to have a conference. But they're just hoping that the Pac-12 doesn't grab 2 more from the Mountain West, which if I was the Pac-12, I would really look at UNLV and Air Force, but we'll have to see what they do.
You mentioned the money, but is it really going to be that significant of an amount of money for Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State, and Fresno State to make what to us looks like a lateral move? What are we missing here?
It's probably, again, and the one thing that happens now, the Pac-12 actually is, in line in front of, and this will may bring back good or bad memories from Utah fans, depending on your point of view. But it's similar to how the Big 12 jumped the Pac-12 in the TV media rights deals and got the deal done first, and then we saw what happened to the Pac-12. So the Pac-12 actually their media deal will come up before the Mountain West. So they have the possibility, by taking basically the best of the Mountain West and pairing it with two power conference schools, to get a better deal than the Mountain West. Yeah, it looks like a lateral move, but it's going to be worth more than whoever the Mountain West ends up with. Now, it's not going to be like, SEC, Big Ten money. It's not going to be even Big 12 money. But it's going to be, I say substantially, 5, 6, 7 million more than what the Mountain West gets. So per school, per year, that's not a bad deal. Because what's the option? Stay in the Mountain West, make less money, and let somebody else go? It just doesn't make sense. So, basically, they are a non-power school, and that doesn't mean they can't beat anybody on a Saturday. Anybody can beat anybody, but the other 364 days a year, they can't compete with the power conference schools because they don't have the revenue coming in. They don't have the resources. So we now go from a group of 5 to a group of 6. But, if their conference champ is probably going to have the best shot of the non-power schools to get to the college football playoff every year, because at least right now they look to have the strongest group of teams. Now, we'll see. Every year is different. We'll see how that plays out. Heck, they may, I mentioned UNLV Air Force. They could go after Memphis or Tulane. Who knows? But, yes, it's a lateral move, but it's not really a lateral move. And all things being equal, which it's never in college football, you do get a bigger brand. You go into a conference that's it's been a butt of jokes, Pac-12 network. It's got studios. It's got a lot of resources that the Mountain West necessarily doesn't have. You have the possibility of getting on more ESPN and Fox, deals with the Pac-12 than you probably would with the Mountain West. You're not on the CW every week. You're not on, Max. You're not streaming, all those different things. So, all in all, when you add it up, it certainly made sense. It's not as drastic as OU and Texas going to the SEC or all the schools going to the Big Ten, but it is significant at the lower level, and it's certainly an option. That it's certainly an opportunity they had to take, because if it would have, if they didn't, then they'd be in a bad spot, because then other teams in their league would leave and they would be much weaker league.
Brett McMurphy, the Action Network, he sent out the 2 most significant tweets for the folks here in the state of Utah today. Utah State waking up to the idea that they might find themselves on the outside looking in. What does a new Mountain West look like?
I think it depends on, who the Pac-12, gets to get to 8. Is it UNLV Air Force? Well, let's just say it is. Then the Mountain West is at 6. Okay, so now what do they have to do? They got to go find 2 schools. So I use the totem pole reference. Well, what's below them? Conference USA and the Sun Belt. Who do you get from those leagues? Texas State, they played tonight against Arizona State. They've been very impressive for a young school. UTSA and San Antonio could be an option. Heck, they may be options for the Pac-12. We'll have to see. But the Mountain West has to go grab 2 more schools. Maybe they take a flyer on. If right now, like any school that I could name or you could bring up to me, they're not going to add like any TV value like USC and Oregon adding to the Big Ten. So so what's the next most important thing? What's the best football product you can put out there? Maybe the Mountain West takes a flyer on North Dakota State or South Dakota State. Those guys can play ball. Do they want to make the move? I don't know, but that's what they've got to figure out. And certainly they're not going to invite anybody until they see what the Pac-12 is going to do, because it makes no sense to add somebody now to go to 10, because you're cutting up the pie into smaller pieces. But if you lose 2 to get to 6, then obviously you got to get back to 8.
Nobody outside of that Pac-12 room seems to know what next step they want to take, but there's a lot of speculation about some of those teams and who they might be. Obviously, we cover Utah State here. It's in the Salt Lake City market. What would Utah State have to do to make the pitch to get on that radar? Because no one's really talking about them yet, but yet they check a lot of the boxes that you just talked about with being in the Salt Lake City market and championships in both football and basketball.
I think it's critical. It's weird, like, to put everything into one season, but certainly if whatever schools that are under consideration, if somebody rolls out a 2-10 season, they're probably not going to be highly sought after. If somebody rolls out a 10-2 season, then you got a shot. I mean, obviously a lot of things go into it. Again, geography doesn't matter, but it does matter. And, how travel is something I'm sure that they would consider. No offense to Logan, Utah. I've never been. Actually, I think I have been there. I think I covered a game there a long, long time ago against USF. But I know I loved it. I know it's not the easiest place to get to, and that's not a negative. That's reality. Look, it's easy to get to Vegas. Does that mean that Vegas is ahead of everybody because it's easy to get to Vegas? I don't know. That's a personal preference. It's not like they're looking at this chart that basically everybody goes by. One conference may decide, travel, it trumps academics. Another one may want football success over academics. Another one wants, fan base, brand name, Twitter followers. God knows these days. Who knows? So I'm sorry I mentioned academics twice, because that's the last thing they're looking at, even though it's in every press release. So for any potential candidates, you've got, the more games you win, the better chance you have. It's not that simple, but it is that simple.
So the other thing that has come up is, like, you make a move like this, and we see that it's just another domino that falls in the conference realignment, big picture. But what is the conference realignment big picture? Was this just a weird move that will end up not actually meaning much because the future of college football realignment is actually going to be so much further away from, even the new version of the Pac-12 and the Mountain West and all those things?
Yeah, I think that, as far as the land, this, whatever the Pac-12 does will be like a little ripple in the pond. The biggest thing is, obviously Florida State and Clemson. Can they get out of the ACC? If they can get out, how much is it going to cost? Is it going to open the floodgates where everybody can get out for scot-free or for, very little amount of money? If so, then it's the snowball down the side of the mountain that starts an avalanche, because then the Big Ten goes to 2022, the SEC goes to 20, the Big 12 swoops in after that and gets up to 20. And then you've got teams like North Carolina, Virginia, who actually would be chosen before Florida State and Clemson. And then you'd have the likes of Florida State, Clemson, Miami, Pitt, Louisville, even Virginia Tech. Those guys would scatter into those three conferences I just mentioned. And then the ACC would basically be left with Syracuse, Boston College, Wake Forest, and then whoever they can grab from the American. And then they may grab some teams from somewhere else that may cause some other, the butterfly effect somewhere down, on the left side of the United States where you guys are. But as far as the Pac-12, I think it's just going to be, it'll be somebody from the Mountain West or the American, and then those conferences will simply add a couple of teams from the smaller conferences, and we'll go on. Everybody's waiting, and that's the thing. Nobody knows what's going on with FSU and Clemson, and if somebody tells you they do, they're lying, because the people at the highest level of college athletics doesn't know. Everybody's waiting to see what the judges decide. Everybody's waiting to see how these lawsuits play out. And until they do, we're not going to know the future of Florida State, Clemson, and or the ACC. And obviously that would have the biggest impact on the most schools, because then it would start the trickle-down effect if there was a mass realignment and the ACC kind of splintered.
The Notre Dame upset against Northern Illinois reminded all of us why we love college football. It was unbelievable. It also could have a huge implication on the playoff. If that loss knocked Notre Dame out, obviously they could try to climb back out of that hole. But if that keeps them out of the playoff, what team benefited the most? Who benefits the most from Notre Dame losing that game and being out of the playoff?
Basically, all the Power 4 conference schools that don't win the conference championship. Mm-hmm. I can't sit there and say specifically, oh, it's great for Penn State, it's great for Oklahoma State, it's great for Clemson. But what it does is Notre Dame's got to run the table. 10-2 Notre Dame with the loss at NIU and whoever the other loss is to, because their schedule is not that tough. I think Louisville, Florida State, USC at the end of the year. So if you say you lose to USC, and I think USC could end up, I'm projecting them now to get to the playoff. They finally have a defense. So let's say they lose to USC. That's not a bad loss. But then you don't have any good wins on your schedule. 10-2 Notre Dame with that schedule doesn't get in. 11-1 Notre Dame, I think they would get in because they only have one loss and they'd be compared with some two-loss teams. But yeah, it benefits, the third place team in the SEC, the third place team in the Big Ten, the second place team in the ACC and the Big 12. That's who's going to benefit because now Notre Dame is not going to take one of those 7 at-large spots.
Brett McMurphy, the Action Network, nice enough to take some time out today of his schedule that I'm sure has been very busy after the conference realignment.
Can't imagine,
today.
Brett.
So
what a day.
We appreciate you joining us. We appreciate all the insight, and thanks for always joining us, man.
Yeah, I gotta cut this short. I gotta go get my tetanus shot. But anytime,
yeah, I was
guys,
gonna say, watch out for those.
Yeah,
if you run into some any infection, Coach Prime will help you out. He's been through it.
Be careful out there, Brett.
Hey, there's a guy in the office. He's wearing this red jersey. Oh, I'm gonna go talk to him. See you guys.
There you go, Brett McMurphy. Gosh, what a day, huh?
Yeah, these are the fun days. This is like college football's crazy, man. Look, I hate what happened today with the Pac-12. It's just stupid to me. It's crazy. It's real. Like, we're not just like sitting here speculating. This really happened.
Okay, it was funny,
and we didn't see it coming.
I get a text today. It's like, what is tetanus floating around on Twitter about? What does that have to do with anything?
Twitter, man.
And I was like, because there's somebody who one of my friends who half-heartedly follows college football. He's like, what are all these tetanus references? I'm like, oh my gosh.
I can't believe how many people fell for a parody account. I just can't believe it. Deion Sanders.
What's the guy's name?
I'd have to.
Billy Football.
What's up, boss?
Billy Foosball.
Billy Foosball.
Hold on. Oh no. Do you believe in that? Huh?
No, don't believe it. Cannot believe everything.
Yep. Wilson F. Ball, college football analyst. Willie Foosball.
William F. Ball.
William F. Ball.
Okay. Well, Coach Prime, we hardly knew
duped a lot of people today.
Prayers. Are you sure that was Coach Prime's real
Save
account
Cam.
that tweeted it out? Because the Coach Prime tweet, actually, he hashtagged himself in it. It said
that's on brand. What are you talking about?
Hashtag Coach Prime.
That's the most Deion thing ever.
Like, who? Hashtag Coach Prime.
He hashtags himself in the third person.
So weird. Hashtag Coach Prime.
I mean, Karl Malone has never even done that.
How's the tetanus feeling, young man? Could you imagine that at the end of the season? When they come across the field after they get beat
it's a miracle.
52-14 against Utah, comes across the field and goes, man, I was praying for you this year, man. How's that tetanus feeling? Pretty good. So weird. So freaking weird.
It is funny. What a day.